And we're talking about millions of people. Last time we mentioned that it may have even been, or may be, half of the population of Brazil.
Yes, but that doesn't say that half the population of Brazil wants to come back to Judaism.
No,
it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of those, but it still creates a huge number of people.
Right, but what we're saying is that about half of the population, if they did DNA tests, probably would come up with Jewish markers,
That's
correct?
what some people have said. That's what some historians have said. Again, yes, it would run into the hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
But again, we can't assume that all of them want to come back by any means.
Yes.
But we do know that there's a swelling number that are knocking on our door.
I'm talking about the potential, though.
The potential is huge. If they knew about it, maybe it would be bigger. We don't know.
Okay.
Because the Jewish world hasn't made it an issue that they seem to be at all interested in, at least not now.
All right. So just for camera one, I would like camera one to come back. What I want to tell you is that the theme of this great idea that Ms. Andree Brooks and I are talking about is outreach to the B'nai Anusim. That's outreach to the people of Central and South America that probably have Jewish DNA markers, that have expressed an interest in their people. And I use that word more than religion. They've expressed an interest in their people, and we would like to help them return to the Jewish fold. That's the great idea. And now we're going to talk about the problems of that idea and how that might be executed. So before the show, we exchanged ideas. I had the idea of building a big building edifice that would show respect and invite the people back. It would have a cultural center of the music and the art and the culture and that kind of a thing. You felt that the priority should be in a different area. Please explain that.
Well, there are several places where we need to put our emphasis. One is to overcome the ignorance of the organized Jewish world in their existence and their needs.
Okay.
The Jewish world has not been that welcoming, I think in large part because they don't understand the issue and the challenge.
The history, they don't know the history.
They don't know the history, absolutely don't know the history. And they don't really, for some reason they're uncomfortable with these people. We need education. We need outreach to rabbis and congregations all over the areas to say, look, these people, who they are, why they're coming to your door, what they need. The second thing we desperately need, I think, is educational materials in Spanish to train them, to teach them, to bring them back to Judaism and Jewish practice. We can't assume that we need to wait until they learn English because they're not going to learn English.
Right, right.
And I think another thing that we need is an understanding of their culture. Because the ones that have made the journey back, that have overcome all of these obstacles, still tell us that they feel somewhat uneasy and uncomfortable in what is essentially an Ashkenazic-centered community in many cases, or congregation, that they're not the bagel and lox crowd.
Yes, yes.
And that idea that they have, going back 500 years, a very, very strong culture in Spain and Portugal, in the Jewish world. The Jewish world has a lot to offer. That part of their culture is ignored.
Yes.
And so we need to again to sensitize and train the leaders of these congregations, the cantors to sing some of their songs, the rabbis to tell them some of their stories, because we know them all. They're all in Jewish history. They're not unknown.
Yes.
I mean, the 1,500 years of Spanish and Portuguese culture on the Iberian Peninsula has left us scores of culture, of records, of ideas of how they lived, of the songs that they sung, of the poetry that they wrote, and the food that they ate. We even know that.
Yes. Now, as far as an edifice, the point at which we agreed as far as a building goes was an administrative building, sort of being the flagship or the headquarters where this whole movement begins of reaching out to the B'nai Anusim. You had spoken about it being more of an administrative building, perhaps located in Mexico City.
Well, the three places I think that you would need it, or that where it could do a lot of good, is one perhaps as a central place in Mexico where there's a lot of them, so say Mexico City.
Yes.
The other would be Sao Paulo. In Brazil.
Yes.
Those are the two main places, and I would put a third one in Albuquerque or somewhere like that
in the States.
In the States, in New Mexico, where we know that there are a lot.
So we have, back to camera one, we would have a North American branch, we would have a Central American branch, and we would have a South American branch. That's what we are proposing, Mr. Bronfman, that we have forgotten South America and Central America as far as the Jews there. We know that there's some synagogues there, but these are Ashkenazi. We're talking about the conversos and the B'nai Anusim. It's really the same thing. And I would even suggest that there be a relaxed conversion process.
Well, this is a big issue with them. They want to go through the full conversion process according to halakha, according to Jewish law. They're not against that.
Yes.
But what they find brittle, what they find difficult emotionally to cope with, is being told that they are converting. They say, no, we've held on to our Jewish identity for 500 years through inquisitions, through all sorts of horrors, and you're telling us we're not good enough. We have to be sensitive to the language we use.
Yes.
We have to come up with which is also being discussed in Israel at the moment, something called a certificate of return rather than a conversion certificate.
Okay.
The language on the certificate means a lot to them.
Okay, so I just said it like a bad word in the sense I said conversion. Maybe I should say
yes,
reorientation.
A program of return.
A program of return.
That is what they're asking for. Even though it may parallel, for reasons of Jewish law, what we consider a conversion. They're not against that. They want to learn. They want to find out what it's all about. But they don't want to be told that they are totally outsiders. They come sometimes to these congregations with their little piece of paper saying, look, I took a DNA test with this company in Houston, and I've got as many Jewish markers as anybody in this congregation, and you're telling me I'm not good enough.
Okay.
And we have to get over that. And then they feel so signed of second-class citizens or so rejected that they go back, and sometimes they never come back again. And that we are losing them already by the score.
Okay.
And even when they go through the whole conversion process, if they have the strength of mind to stay, what is not happening and what we need more, again, training and sensitivity for, is to say you are a member of the congregations whose background and whose culture needs to be recognized as much as anybody else.
Yes.
You're not the convert. You're not the outsider. You are an insider, probably, maybe even more than some of the people in the congregation. You're an insider. But you should be made to feel a little bit more welcome. Yes. We did these for the Russian Jews when they came back to Judaism
with
about
their
20 years ago.
With their Gentile
well,
wives?
With themselves. I mean, they hadn't been Jews for 3-4 generations in Russia during the Soviet period.
Yes, yes.
There was tremendous outpouring of money and expertise to help them reintegrate into the Jewish world. We made it much easier. We did a tremendous amount for them.
Okay, now this issue surfaced also in Israel with the Ethiopian Jews. They were very offended by the notion, even the suggestion that they needed to somehow convert back to Judaism. I mean, these people practiced biblical Judaism. They suffered many pogroms, and many hardships to hold on to their Judaism, and then they come, and these white Jews tell them that
they're not good enough.
There's that racial issue.
But I think one has to appreciate that Jewish law has to be followed, but it can be followed in a far more sensitive and understanding way. But we have to train teachers, and we have to send them out there into the field to work with the local communities.
Okay, and we have to prepare the ground so that people have this sensitivity training. We have to build the Jewish community here in North America as well.
And we have to train the leaders.
Albuquerque.
We have to train the leaders. Now, we know that already there's at least 6 or 8 of the B'nai Anusim who've gone through the conversion process and gone through rabbinic training.
Yes.
Some of them are already out there in congregations, but it costs them a lot. Most of these people don't have those kinds of resources. If we could provide scholarships for some of them who want to be leaders of their own people and help them back, which is what these people who are going through all this want to do, but the ones that are doing it have had to go through enormous hoops to be able to manage it. I think that we need a proper program of scholarship for rabbinic school.